brought to you by Body Armor Flash IV. I have the grape in front of me right now. Body Armor Flash IV is packed with electrolytes and provides faster and longer-lasting hydration with no artificial flavors, sweeteners, or dyes. With great-tasting flavors like strawberry, kiwi, and tropical punch, Body Armor Flash IV gives your body the rehydration it needs to recover. I'm telling you right now, my voice sounded 10 times worse about an hour ago before I started chugging this stuff. So if that's any kind of testament, there you go. Get yours at a local 7-Eleven or on Amazon today. Boys, how we doing? How's everybody feeling?
Doing great.
Yeah.
Doing great.
Better than you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all sound better than you. Shout out Body Armor. You guys are going to hear us interview Christopher Bell in a little bit, and spoiler alert, Large sounded like kind of like bad. So It's a testament to Body Armor's rehydration and, curing properties. I got my Body Armor hat on today, and we appreciate their continued support. But yeah, doing well. How's everyone else doing?
Good.
Moonhead, how you doing, buddy?
I'm holding up all right.
Are you?
Yeah, I think I'll make it through this.
Good. I'm hoping that you do. Legacy Motor Club announced today an exciting collaboration with Live Nation and Vibey, the music-led destination, blah, 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 blah. So they're going to have John Hunter Nemechek this weekend driving the 42, and across the side, the back, the hood, the whole deal is the Backstreet Boys. What the fuck's that about? The Backstreet Boys back? Are they doing some sort of tour?
They, as far as I understand, they're doing a residency in Las Vegas. I don't know if it's at the Sphere. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But I think they will have some sort of residency in Las Vegas. So given that we're racing in Vegas this weekend, they went to John Hunter. I remember I saw Bob Pockris posted the sheet for, the race at Las Vegas, and I was looking through all the sponsors, and I was like, Backstreet Boys? And then like 6 hours later, Legacy posted the tweet of Jimmie, and it was a great promo they did. Jimmie was walking through the garage with a CD player, and he was listening to Backstreet Boys, and he goes up to John Hunter. He's like, "You ever seen one of these things?" And then he puts it on, and the Backstreet Boys start playing. So I don't know. I like it. I'm here for it.
Is Justin Timberlake part of this? I mean, he's back with these other... Right?
No
Justin
chance.
Timberlake sort of said, I'm going to leave you losers, marry Jessica Biel, and do my own thing, right? Like, that was kind of the deal with the Backstreet Boys? So
yeah, I can't imagine he's still with him.
Yeah.
He's
Last
gotta
I
be-
saw Justin Timberlake, he was dealing with his own issues.
What did he have? I don't even
It
remember.
was like just him being obviously on drugs during like his concerts. And he had to go into like
Well, I'm fine with that. I thought my concern with Justin Timberlake
no,
was
like not the fun drugs.
the drunk driving incident on Long Island.
Oh,
in Montauk, when he got arrested by like an 18-year-old cop, and the whole internet was like, "Fuck this cop."
Which might have been related.
And then since then, that's been about a year, and that
Was-
police officer just got awarded like Police Officer of the Year for whatever police department it was. Sorry, Moonhead, go ahead.
I'm not familiar with boy bands, but was he in? Which one was he in?
oh,
Aren't
he
there
could
two of
be
them?
in sync.
Wasn't he
Oh,
in
shit, he's in
NSYNC?
sync. That's right. I'm so
Oh.
sorry. Holy shit. Backstreet Boys is like the tall guy. The fuck
It's
is the
Joey
difference?
Fatone, right?
Kevin
No,
Federline, is he in
No,
one of them?
Fatone is on In Sync.
Oh man, we're off to a hot start.
Well,
No,
Really?
but
What's
the
the one-
thing is,
Let me
Nick
pull up their
Carter.
roster.
if all of a sudden we started talking about it and everyone knew it, then I would call you out for. I like how we're all pretending we don't know about boy bands. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Oh.
Meanwhile, I could name you the starting lineup from fucking Menudo in 1987, like you read about. But I think Backstreet Boys then was.
I have it right here.
Oh,
It's
go ahead.
Nick Carter, so he's the only one that I recognize
And
by
he's
name.
also dead.
Yeah, oh, is he? Yeah, he
That was
is,
his
right?
brother, wasn't it? Didn't his brother die?
No, Aaron Carter is the brother, and Nick Carter. I don't know.
No,
Wait
no.
a second.
This says Aaron.
Wait, a
This says
Backstreet
Nick,
Boy is dead?
this says Nick Carter is 45 years old. There's Wikipedia does not quote any date of his death, so
Okay.
Okay, you can
I
strike
think
that from the
Aaron
record.
Carter might be the one that's dead because people also ask, did
Oh.
Nick Carter attend Aaron Carter's funeral?
Okay.
Ooh,
The rest of the band consists of Brian Luttrell,
Okay.
AJ McLean, Kevin Richardson, and Howie Duro, according to
AJ
Wikipedia.
McLean sounds like a driver.
Yeah.
I think the one guy's tall and he's got a deep voice. I kind of like the cut of his jib. But thoughts and prayers to the family of one of those brothers, and congratulations to the Backstreet Boys for not being in sync and for being for getting some sort of gig. And see, that makes a lot of sense. I thought it was going to be in sync minus Justin Timberlake just, a bunch of bloated guys who look like me trying to hit the fucking whatever, like trying to hit all these moves. It sounds fucking awful. This one I like. Morgan Freeman is the Grand Marshal for the race this weekend. That's kind of cool, man. Right?
Yeah, that's very cool.
How old is Morgan Freeman? Don't look. Don't fucking look. How old is Morgan Freeman? I know the answer because we're the same age. I'm gonna go to Spider first.
Well, that's kind of a spoiler alert.
I'm just joking. I'm only 53.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say he's like 73 to 78. I'm gonna give me.
No. You get it one age.
Give me 74.
Okay. Quigs.
Give me 79.
Oh my God! I just looked it up.
Moonhead.
I'm going to take 82.
He's 87 years young.
Oh
That's
my
what
God.
you just read, right, Spider?
Yeah, I listen. If God gives me 87 years on this beautiful earth, I will be satisfied, and I can't imagine they will be as full years as Morgan Freeman has lived. So good for him.
And the thing is, he's still working.
Yeah,
Like I can guarantee I won't be around at 87. I've come to that. I'm not. So on the back nine of life, I think I'm just teeing off at 15. That's kind of where I think that I'm at. So if he's 87 years old and still doing shit like that, God bless him, because the other side of the coin is fucking Gene Hackman. You know what I mean? Whose mummified remains next to his wife and dog weren't found for fucking weeks. So if they can dig up Morgan Freeman and bring him out to Vegas for a race, God bless. You know what? I would love to see an NSYNC reunion with Morgan Freeman taking over for Justin Timberlake. Boom. Blow up the fucking
I bet he's got a
world.
great voice.
Yeah. Xfinity race this weekend. Was it what Xfinity race was pretty enjoyable to watch. Eric Almirola was touting God at the end. I love that shit. Where he's like, yeah, I adored Bowman and whatnot, but it was kind of nice to represent God on the car. But Eric Almirola adores Bowman to winning overtime in Saturday's Xfinity race. I know a lot of people were pissed off in and around Atlanta because the CW affiliate there went to a Braves commercial during the final restart. So a lot of people who had watched the whole fucking race didn't get to see the end because CW cut to a commercial, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. What were your takes on the race, Spider? How'd you like Xfinity? We don't give them enough shine.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I think anyone that is upset with that finish needs to like get off Bowman's dick personally. I've long said on this pod that he is the most white knighted for Cup driver in the entire fucking field, and I think that Saturday was a testament to that. People are quick to forget Bowman did this very thing on a higher level at the Cup Series. I think it was 2022 at Martinsville, when he took out Denny Hamlin with like 5 laps to go, and there was no outrage. Now, I don't know if that's just because people are Toyota haters or they don't like Denny Hamlin, but, I mean, you go for the win at the end. So, I mean, I don't really knock Eric Almirola. I also think it's pretty hypocritical for all these Bowman fans to get loud on Twitter and be like, well, how disgusting was that? The only problem I have with it, I kind of, like to your point, Large, it is kind of crazy that, to go from like intentionally moving a guy to immediately coming out of the car and be like, I'm here for young kids finding God. And, like the whole religious angle was kind of crazy in my opinion, but I don't know. I don't have an issue with it. And I thought it made for great racing. I also think it's important to mention that Bowman, if anyone lost the race on Saturday, and this might be a hot take, it was Justin Allgaier. It was not Alex Bowman. Justin Allgaier was the most dominant car. The only guy that was really up there in contention with him was Eric Almirola. So
he finished third?
Who?
Allgaier?
No, I think he finished like 7th or 8th. But the last restart, which never should have happened, he got shuffled back, and Bowman and Almirola ran by him. So to me, if Almirola or Justin Allgaier won, that would have been kind of deserving. Those were kind of the two of the better cars all day. And I know I'm sitting here like, how many of the first races have we seen this year in the Cup level where there's been a guy leads 1 lap and it's the last lap and that's all that counts? So I understand the people that are going to rebuttal my argument by saying like, that's just racing. It's all about who's there at the end. But I just think the outrage and the tears for Bowman were a little bit like hypocritical. And I remain of the opinion that no one gets defended like he does on the Cup level.
Did you think that it was good? I mean, I thought that personally it was kind of cool to watch too, right? I mean, it manufactured a pretty nice look ending.
It was a great finish.
Yeah, and then when you went to the Cup Series and you watched Denny kind of take that high line we were like, oh my God, we're coming down to it. It's sort of like, I don't know. I thought it set up very well for the Cup race, I guess is what the words that I'm trying to look for. So I enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah, I thought it was a great little teaser to Sunday's race. And unfortunately, Sunday was relatively clean at the end. But again, I feel like I say it every week at this point. The name of the show is Rubbin is Racing. Like contact, especially at an oval for a win, is never going to be frowned upon by me, unless obviously I'm on the wrong end and have a betting ticket. But I want to hear Quigs and Moonhead's take on what we saw. Who's the asshole? Did Almirola do too much? Where do you guys stand?
No, I'd be on Almirola's side. I think there's also an ounce, which I don't know on the track if there is, but a guy who's doing double duty and just kind of coming down into the series in Bowman of like, this is like Almirola's racing in there a lot more. And I think Almirola's, you got to do that. So,
I mean, he's semi-retired driver. He's going to try to get as many wins as he possibly can.
Yeah. But when he races, it is Xfinity. Like that's.
But I also think, and this might be another hot take, I feel like he's a guy that I look forward to watching race on the Xfinity level.
I get excited when I see his name.
Same. Unfortunately, I didn't have a ticket on him this weekend, but like he's a guy where typically I'll bet on him if I see him in the field, and I'm pulling for him regularly. And I know he's not necessarily the most marketable, likable guy, but I mean, I don't have an issue with what happened. Moonhead, where do you stand?
No, I was fine with the move because he's there to try to win an honors championship too for Gibbs, even though he's not running the full year. So I don't see a problem with it. He didn't wreck him. Like, in my opinion, if two guys are coming to the line and they still finish 1-2, like, regardless of how they made it to the line, like, that's just doing everything you can do to win. So I didn't see anything overly bad. We've seen a whole lot worse. Now, I do think had Almirola done it to like an Xfinity regular or somebody like maybe an underdog or something, it would probably be viewed a little bit different by me. I will acknowledge that. But
what
like,
if he did it to Zilich?
I mean, I don't know, because he's racing that car in the owner's title. So like, really, I think it's kind of an equal like opportunity thing there. But at the same time, it's also Alex Bowman. Like, it's a Cup guy. Like, I'm sure Almirola is quicker to stick him in the fence and not care about it than he would be some up and coming racer or one of his Gibbs teammates or something like that.
Almirola is 40 years old, and I can understand him walking away from Cup. What do you have? 460 races over 16 years with 3 wins. That was his Cup career. His Xfinity is 120 races, so about a quarter of that over 14 years, and he has 8 wins, more than double. Do you think Eric Almirola should be racing full-time in Xfinity? Like, I think that this guy has the opportunity, or is it just not worth it, to be fucking dominant? I can understand that he wants to step away from Cup, spend a little time with his family, but he's doing a lot of this stuff. Why not just fucking race full-time and dominate the shit out of that fucking league? Maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a question for Joe Gibbs himself. It seems like Almirola would probably explore that as much as he's,
I feel like he would have the option if he wanted to.
Really?
You think?
I don't know. I mean, I think both. I think he would be a really like top level Xfinity driver if he did it full time. I think he just doesn't want to. I think he could if he wanted to.
Did you guys see Bubba Wallace's tweet following the finish?
No.
He said you acted. He quote tweeted Jeff. Yeah, after the Xfinity race, he quote tweeted Jeff Gluck's poll and said, "You're acting like the 17 got ... sucker punched." And there was some rumors that Almirola and Bubba Wallace got into a physical altercation a couple of years back, maybe last year, I think it was. Yeah. And that might have something to do with the fact why he's not, more involved and he only gets selective looks. I think they suspended him, or he didn't race as much as originally planned following that. And that might be like an obstacle. But
no, I remember that story, and that was definitely everyone behind the scenes in NASCAR knows exactly what happened.
Right.
And it never
I
got
wish
out
we
to
asked
the
Bubba
public
about that when he was in here, even off the record, just so we could know what exactly happened.
But I think that turned a lot of people's favor away from Almirola on the back end of NASCAR.
Yeah, and it's funny because I feel like the tweet from Bubba Wallace on Saturday following the Xfinity race kind of was confirmation of all those, like, like you said, like storylines about this actually happening. So I'd love to get to the bottom of that or full context of what actually happened, but it sounds like Bubba Wallace is still kind of holding the grudge, which I can't blame him because I'm pretty good at that myself.
Yeah, you're not bad at it.
Yeah.
So then we move into Cup, right? And we go into this race thinking that Penske is going to dominate, right? Just because of how well they've done at Phoenix. And they didn't, right? Blaney was inside the top 10 most of the day till he had the engine issues. Joey started on the front row. Then he had that pass-through penalty, which, I mean, I know people were complaining about, but his foot was on the line. There's nothing that you can do about it. You know what I mean? So cry about it all you want. Take the fucking pass-through. And then Cindric barely finished in the top 20. But I think it's interesting. Josh Berry finished fourth on Sunday. Congratulations to Josh.
Yep. He's been running great this year.
He has, right? And part of that success is chalked up to Wood Brothers' technical alliance with Team Penske. So it's sort of like Team Penske had done pretty well. But by scoring 39 points on Sunday, the fourth most of all drivers, Berry jumped 12 positions in the standing to 21st. And his P4 was the first top 5 for the 75-year-old Wood Brothers shop ever. I found that to be fucking pretty amazing. But, you know, at Phoenix.
Did you see what happened with this spotter?
No.
So formerly on this show, you know, we made fun of spotters for, you know, incidents like Daytona with what happened with Cole Custer's spotter misidentifying the car that he's meant to be spotting. I want to call out Josh Berry's spotter, Miles Stanley. I thought he did a great job. They came down pit road. Let's see. I don't even know at what point in the race this was. This was about 94 laps in. And the spotter from the spotter stand saw and recognized that the left rear tire was loose. So he gets on the mic, stop, go back, and tells the team left rear tire is loose. So I thought that was really good, and that ultimately probably saved Josh Berry's day, which easily could have been disastrous. We also saw great running from Ty Dillon, who on the flip side of what I'm saying about Berry, unfortunately made a mistake on pit road and sped. But he was running as high as P4, I think, on Sunday. So credit to him. And it's a testament to how quick one simple mistake can ruin your day. But Josh Berry's success is not without credit from Miles Stanley, the spotter. So it goes both ways on this show. We're gonna call out spotters when they mess up, but I also think Miles Stanley deserves some flowers for catching that from very far away atop the spotter's box. And I'll maybe we can put the clip in, run it now.
11, stop, come back. Rear, left rear, jack it up, left rear, left rear. Go.
And as Spider had mentioned at the top of the show, we have the winner of this race, Chris Bell, winner of 3 in a row, coming up in just a couple of minutes. But how did you guys like that race in general, particularly with the 2 tires? I found it to be pretty fucking fascinating, you know, and it gave opportunities for guys like, you know, Ryan Preece to be out there in front. I don't know. I just found it to be pretty fucking cool. Everybody in general waited for the final stage before they started to put on their reds. But those who decided to get a little bit interesting, I think it made for a very interesting race. The way that Joey climbed out of a hole, putting on his reds, and obviously he couldn't maintain that once he had to go back to his regular yellows. But I found it to be pretty refreshing, and it's probably the best Phoenix race we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that was the closest finish in Cup history at Phoenix. I think that's what they said on the broadcast as we were getting out of it. But even aside from the finish, I thought there was something to watch for pretty much the entire race. The race starts with Joey Logano, who's leading. You had Byron up there and Bell up there as well. But Logano gets the lead and then ultimately gets penalized for, I think he had a yellow line violation and had to go to the back. And then he worked his way up from there. So I think there was something kind of throughout the race to watch for. And then again, the introduction or the use of these tires and the tires really increased kind of the entertainment, I think. Like you said, Large, there were some guys running up top that had, you know, unfamiliar, unprecedented territory. We saw Ryan Preece up there, which I'm a Ryan Priest guy.
Yeah.
Not. We'll get into the Noah Gregson thing in a minute.
Oh yeah, we'll touch on that. In a second.
Ryan Priest is one of my favorites. Fuck you, Noah. And he is typically a guy you would only think can be up front at a track like Talladega or Daytona, as we saw. And then he got up front at Phoenix, given the option tires. So I was really intrigued by that introduction. I know there was some criticism. Maybe they should have warned more. But overall, I thought the race was, great start to finish.
I'll be the hater then.
Yeah.
I thought they were too overpowered.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm a fan of having the option tires. I think they add a cool element. That it just, if you ran them early like Priest did, you're the best car out there by far.
Yeah, but then you don't have them later.
I know, and then everybody saves them for later when they're kind of just all on the level playing field and whatever. I wish they weren't as drastic and didn't last as long, and there was more strategy of maybe we do use it here to get back up the top and it won't fuck us later to where we can't compete if some other people have them on. I just think they were legitimately like power up in NASCAR to where, I don't know, I just thought it was I didn't like how drastic of a change they made to the race.
Moonhead, what did you think? You're the deciding vote here.
I enjoyed it. I think, though, and I think this is the plan going forward, I think that they should, hope I'm getting them right, I think that the red tire should just be the tire, because that
could be cool as well.
That was like when they fell off the most, and it seemed like it could produce some cool stuff. I like the option tire stuff in a lot of the races, but if the championship's going to be at Phoenix, they need to pick a tire and stay to it, because I don't want some stupid late race Catherine Leg yellow and then somebody putting on red tires and winning a championship or something over it. So I don't know. I liked it, but I think that in the future, if they're going to do that, at least for Phoenix, I think they should just make the red tire the tire.
What happens if they make the option tire, the red tire, the tire, and then create an even softer option? Maybe a pink tire, a different, shade of red, like a magenta or something like that. So then you have the opportunity. It just seems like the key to a good race goes through Goodyear, right? Like they can do stuff more so than just about any other aspect of the car itself to make or break these races, because it didn't seem like a traditional Phoenix race. Like we still had the same cutting off the dog leg, going 5 wide, that whole deal. But you also got to see some really cool movement. I know that they don't want to have option tires in the championship race, and I don't think that they should. And I'm wondering if, to Quiggs' point, it seemed like the option tires were a power-up button. So if everyone has the power-up button throughout the whole thing, does it turn it back into a boring race, or does it, bring more pit strategy in, because the softer tires, you can't stay out as long on them, so you can't really, link them up to your fuel mileage as much. I think it just poses a bunch of really interesting strategies, and it's going to make some very good racing going forward. So for maybe all those people who are complaining on social media about how they want softer tires, they were fucking right. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, I really enjoyed it thoroughly. Yeah, and I thought the guys who played it very well, and it did give a couple other people a chance to shine during the race. I am going to backtrack, because shout out to Todd Gillen and Noah for coming on last week. We got a little bit of virality off the clip of Noah putting Spider's feet to the flames as far as asking him who his favorite driver is. I came off as a total coward. Not enough people had mentioned that.
Facts.
Like Spider had said, "Large, help me out," and I was like, "Fuck you, Spider," or something like. I was like, "I'm Switzerland here," so I had moved back. But when you're doing podcasts like this, you can't really, not ingratiate yourself with as many people as possible, or else you don't get to talk to people. And one of the greatest things that we have in this sport, as opposed to other ones, is access. And for people who cover Major League Baseball or professional football or the NBA, they have hundreds upon hundreds of people to choose from who they can talk to from a player's perspective every week. We have 30, right? We have something around there. So, you know, a lot of times, yeah, we don't really dislike too many people. Yeah, a Moonhead more so than us. He hates everybody. But, you know, so you have to sort of play nice in the sandbox, you know, for the most part. Right, Spider?
Yeah, I got a couple takes on this whole situation.
Go.
One, fuck you, Large.
No,
you didn't have my back. No,
but
I'm
it
just
did turn
kidding.
into a good clip.
It did, and I can live with that. Honestly, the name of the game is growing the show, growing the sport. So if it's at my expense, I'm here for that every single week. It seems like not only Moonhead but myself has been on getting receptive some Twitter feedback recently, whether it be me and Tony Breidinger's funny meme or something like Noah Gregson putting me in a box. But you know what? It's really, that's fine, because I'm of the opinion I'm friends with a lot of these drivers more than I'm not. In terms of like the numbers, I would say I have a relationship with probably more than half the field. So feel any type of way, I get it. And also, like, I was the one who, it was my idea to have both Noah and Todd on the show. Noah has been a friend of mine for a while. And also, like, a little context, that clip, I was simply asking for confirmation. Hey, that's Sheldon Creed. That's who I think it is. Can you confirm? And it turned into me not knowing Sheldon Creed, which is absolutely not true. I think pretty much majority of the Cup drivers or Xfinity drivers since like 2020, I would be able to recognize since we've been doing this pod large. Now, if you ask me guys when I was a child, probably not going to be able to recognize them. But, you know, forgive me for being polite and asking Noah Gregson, hey, before I say hello, can you confirm that that's who I think it is? Like, we were removed from the track at this guy Christian's apartment. Shout out Christian, great guy. Go follow him on social media. Big NASCAR content creator. But like, I don't feel any type of way. As much as that was a little annoying, I think it's a testament to kind of NASCAR's audience. People are just like fucking praying for heads to roll, fire these guys, get some people that know NASCAR. Like, respectfully, that's water off my back, or whatever the expression is. I sleep well at night knowing that we have good relationships with a lot of these people. I could FaceTime Noah Gregson right now and tell him to fuck off if I wanted to. And listen, go make your own NASCAR podcast. I'm not going to be tweeting and saying, fire these guys, cancel them. These guys know nothing. The gatekeeping that goes on in this sport is absolutely insane to me. If I were, you know, a lifelong fan of this sport, which I'm lucky to be of the last maybe 4 or 5 years, I would be pumped when new energy or media attention was being brought to my sport, regardless of whatever shape of form that came in. So again, it all just seems like fucking, you know, what I wanted to reply to all of the haters was just the Kyle Busch crying gif. But credit to me, I don't really care as much as I was reading some of these replies. But yeah, like, again, I'm going to sleep well tonight knowing that Noah and I are good friends and we can fuck with each other. The other thing I want to say,
I think that didn't come through as well in that clip. How much Noah and you constantly bust each other's balls. Yeah, like Noah and you constantly bust each other's balls.
I mean, I got a fire suit of Noah Gregson right over there. I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I'm just saying, like, your opinion is kind of irrelevant if you're just upset over one 30-second clip. Like, how about you actually tune into the show and listen to the discussion? The other thing I'm going to say is I'm not going to apologize for rooting for multiple drivers. As Large said, he provided necessary context. It's good to have good relationships with people in the garage from all teams. And if that gets you upset, like, I don't know, maybe get on antidepressants or something. This is not like I'm rooting for both Duke and North Carolina. Like, what are we talking about here? This is not, I'm not Jeff D. Lowe rooting for, you know, the Connecticut Huskies, the Penn State football, Las Vegas Golden. Like, miss me with all this hater energy. That's all it reeks of. Okay. So again, as much as I may be kind of fired up, it's not affecting my.
It didn't help that it was Sheldon Creed, who could be one of the most recognizable, there are so many drivers who you could basically rip their head off and put it on another driver, and you may not know. Like, you know what I mean? But Sheldon's got such a distinct look to him, you know, with the glasses and the whole deal. But no, I hear what you're saying. But
and we just got our clip for this week, and we'll throw you right back into the fire.
yeah, exactly.
That whole section.
Yeah, no, and that's what we do here. Like, I just got, before you guys came on, I had to shoot an ad for some golf dad wear that we're putting together in the Barstool store. and they had ordered a shirt for me to do it, and the shirt was one size too small. I legitimately have a C cup in these pictures. Maybe I'll send them to Jacob. He can pop them in right now. I do not want people seeing me with a big old, and I think my left tit. I don't even have a big right one. Maybe it's lopsided, maybe it was just the lighting. But that's what we do. We do stuff like that just to sort of maintain in the public eye, so it is what it is. The top 5 points leaders after Sunday are now William Byron, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, and Chase Elliott. People don't seem to want to talk about the top of the point leaderboard anymore, and we're back to talking hot seats, particularly this week. And one of the guys who's been mentioned a lot outside of Ty Gibbs, we consistently see that Ty Gibbs is off to a slow start, obviously leaking into last season as well, not doing as well as he should have going into the end of last season. We're not that far into this season, right? I mean, it's only March or something like that, and we know that we're going to race until November. Is this way too early to be calling for people? Like, you know what I mean? Like, couldn't Ty Gibbs turn this around with one fucking race? Couldn't Brad Kay turn this around with one fucking race? And we have like 30 of them left. Is this way too early?
I got a couple thoughts on this. One, I think Ty Gibbs is absolutely not on the hot seat. His last name is the name of the team he races for.
I shouldn't say hot seat. We use that as like a blanket term. You're right. But, you know, when people are saying that, you know, is it time to hit the panic button? You hear that a lot, you know, with is it the team time to hit the panic button? All that kind of shit. I think it's way too early for that. But go ahead, Spider. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to misspeak.
I think with Ty Gibbs, I think people are saying the only reason he's not on the hot seat is because his last name's Ty Gibbs.
And I'm not going to like completely dismiss the concern over Ty Gibbs' performance. You look at Circuit of the Americas last year, I think he had a top 5 finish, and he was the reason why he was on my card last week. You look at Las Vegas this week, he was in the top 10 of last year's race as well. So I don't know. I think he needs to kind of figure it out. But at the same time, as we say a lot on this show, I feel like it takes these guys 2 or 3 years of regular reps before they're in a spot where they can win or actually compete. And I think Ty will be fine. And the other thing is, I don't think it's fair. I think to answer your question a roundabout way, Large, it is too early. I mean, we did this song and dance last year when Ford hadn't won a race for the first month and a half of
with the new NASCAR course.
Right.
Yeah.
And what did they do? They ended up winning their second straight NASCAR Cup Series championship. So the beauty of this sport is it's a long season, or a curse, depending on who you ask. But, I mean, he's got, 32, 31 more weeks to figure it out. So I think he'll get there. And I think Brad and Ty, who are both kind of struggling right now, will not be the kind of guys toward the bottom at the end of the year. I also think it's a little weird, and it doesn't make sense to me, and trying to have to explain this to like new fans who don't necessarily understand the fact that Bell has won 75% of the races this far this year, and he's in second place in point standings. I'll never understand that. So
yeah,
but I do think it is too early to be, concerned or like hitting the panic button, as you said, on Ty Gibbs. He's a young driver. It's going to take him some time. And I expect him to turn it around.
Is Chris Bell the best NASCAR driver in the world after winning 3 races in a row at the beginning of the 2025 season? Is Ty Gibbs the worst driver in the world because he's underperforming for the last 10 races leading back to the 2024 season? I think the answer to both is no, right?
Yeah, I would say no. I mean, this is not tennis where it's like world rankings and every result dictates where you're ranked. So no, I don't agree with that. I do think that Ty Gibbs is in a great car, and he will figure it out eventually.
Bell's closer to the best driver than
honestly, I would agree with Quigs. I think at this point, I think there could be a conversation to be made about Bell being the best driver in the world currently. Mm-hmm. And you look at it, he's the first guy to win 3 of 4 races since Harvick did it in 2017. And he's the first driver to win 3 races in a row in these Generation 7 cars. So he is certainly turning heads. And I also think, I don't have the stat in front of me, but I think he's one of the only drivers that's won on pretty much every single track type, whether it be a plate track, a dirt track like we formerly saw, a road course, intermediate, etc. So he certainly has proven himself on a wide variety of tracks, and I definitely think that conversation is more realistic than is Ty Gibbs the worst driver on the Cup Series, which I vehemently disagree with.
And he's favorite going into this week.
Exactly.
Bell. Like the Chris Bell train is not. We won't give away too much that we're going to talk about in the interview, but the Chris Bell train is far from being over. How do you feel about Chris Bell? How do you feel about Ty Gibbs, Moon?
I mean, I agree with them that Chris is closer to the best than Ty is close to the worst. But the season's so damn long. It's hard for me to really I don't really press the panic button or really judge anybody's season until around Coke 600 time, because I feel like then we've had a good sample size, a good few months, and then also a pretty big variety in tracks where you've got a few short tracks under their belt, at least one road course under their belt, and then obviously the intermediates and a couple super speedways. So I wouldn't really press the panic button on Ty yet, but if I was one of Christopher Bell's competition, I would probably be worried, because 3 in a row this early, I don't really see things going bad. And even if they do, he's a lock for the playoffs with 3 wins. So, I don't foresee, I don't know mathematically, the possibility of multi-time winners and knocking him out. But I think it's pretty safe to say he's a lock in the playoffs with 3 wins. So he could run like shit from now until September and it wouldn't matter. So I think that they'll probably be experimenting. And honestly, that's probably a really good thing for a guy like Ty, who is his teammate, who's struggling. Maybe he can kind of lean on Bell for some feedback. And then if Bell's team, they may run like shit for a few weeks because they kind of have the ability to try things and see what happens now, because they've got those 3 wins in the bank. So I wouldn't press the panic button on Ty yet, but I would be nervous to be competing against Christopher Bell.
Well, while we're talking Ty Gibbs, who does everyone think out of all the winless full-time Cup drivers will get their win first? Does everyone have a pick? I'm somewhere between Carson Hocevar.
Never, not winless.
Who hasn't won yet.
Okay.
Who will win first out of the winless full-time Cup Series drivers. I'd probably go with Carson Hocevar, as much as if you asked me, last year it would have been Ty Gibbs. But what we've seen from Carson this year has been super incredible. But we also see guys like Todd Gilliland and Noah Gragson, my 2 favorite drivers, in the top 10 last week at COTA. Is there someone that you guys have circled for success first?
This may be a guy with a win, so correct me if not, but Josh Berry.
Yeah.
Did he ever get a win?
I don't believe he's won on the Cup
win.
Series.
I'll take Josh Berry then.
That's a pretty solid pick.
That is a solid pick too.
I don't think the finishing results we've seen from Berry necessarily tell the full story. I mean, sure, he finished 4th last week, but Daytona or Atlanta rather, I think he got a did he get a DNF? He finished pretty poorly, if I'm not mistaken. He finished 26th, but that doesn't tell the full story of his performance that week. He was running really, really well. I'm sorry, that was at COTA. But yeah, I think he did get a DNF at Atlanta, but that was a race that I felt like he could have won, and he was running right up there alongside his Penske teammates. Moonhead, is someone come to mind for you?
No, Hocevar has jumped up the power rankings, I feel like, with how he's run. But Barry's also moved up, because the 21 is it's running like a full-blown Penske car this year. And I know that's probably always been the case, and a lot of credit goes to Barry on that, but it legitimately looks like the 4th Penske car out there running good week in and week out. So I'd say it's neck and neck between him and Hocevar, but then there's Noah, who has been running really good too, and all it takes is one crazy late race restart, and a guy running 7th on 7th place speed can win the race. So I don't know. I think probably Hocevar would be my number 1, though. I think if anybody's going to do it, it'll be him.
Yeah, I like the Berry pick. That's a great pick, Quigs. Large, what about you? Is there someone?
I think the Berry pick sort of makes a little bit more sense to me, also because he's older. Sometimes you see these younger kids like a Hocevar or like a Ty Gibbs. But remember when he was in his rookie year and he was 34 years old or some shit like that? We spoke to him about, to have a kid who's 10 years younger than him be like, carry my bags, rookie. He'd be like, no, go fuck yourself type thing. So maybe the age comes into play. I didn't have Berry on my card when you had asked that question. I was going through him. But I think I'd probably put Berry the top out of those three. If we're going to do if we're just going to concentrate on those four, we'll put Noah in that, in that conversation as well. So, but I've never had him on my betting card. Josh Berry is somebody that I haven't really looked at as much. But he's been impressive past couple of weeks, and it looks like it's going to keep going. What about Brad Kay? We're talking about guys who are, in the beginning of their Cup careers, and they're trying to establish a name for themselves, and establish a name for themselves is no easier way to do it than to win races. But Brad Kay has done a lot in this sport so far, and he's been going through a rough patch. Is it one of those things where if Brad Kay doesn't grab a win this year, then maybe he should think about walking away from this thing? There's no problem with him doing that, but, is it... I'd be closer to hit a panic button on Brad Kay than I would on these younger guys. Is that fair to say?
Brad Kay always just shows up eventually.
Okay.
Like he'll just come and probably be fourth this weekend and just back to normal.
I can tell you right now,
I think he'll be fine.
He's a must follow on Twitter as of last week. I just started looking into him because it seems like Brad Kay may be dipping a little bit into the weed because he's been throwing stuff out around midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. Apparently lemons don't exist. They're a hybrid of bitter orange and citron created through crossbreeding. So basically, life never gave us lemons. We made them ourselves. So Brad Kay quote tweets this and says, wow, this is deep. And then I think the following day, again, after midnight, he puts this footage of a centrifuge with a pregnant woman in it, like throwing the baby out and being caught in a net. So Brad Kay is on one lately, and I don't know if it's part of the push for him to, just be a little bit more social on social media, but it's working because I'm following him as closely as I've ever followed him his career. I'm pulling for him. I hope that everything is cool, but the guy has got so many other balls in the air that, if he decides to walk away from racing, it wouldn't be that tragic,
Yeah, I'm interested. I think Brad is a guy that can race as long as he wants, given his ownership stake in the team he races for. But I also think, like we said about Denny Hamlin a couple weeks ago, or maybe last week, he's a guy that's smart enough to make the right business decision, whether that means allowing a young kid to come in and drive for him in the spot that he was driving, or if he thinks he still has enough in the tank to do it himself. But I expect Brad to stick around for a couple more years at least, and until there's someone that he really believes in that he can put in one of his cars. But I'm not hitting the panic button on him either.
This is a little random, but I just want to give a shout out to, since we're speaking RFK, them putting the choice tires on Priest at the beginning was such a smart move. Because one, Priest gets his stage points, gets a good run, but they get all the tire data right away from him. So they just share it within the teams.
That's
and they
right.
they're the first ones to know exactly what those tires are doing. They kind of mentioned that on the broadcast, but I thought it was a super smart move that wasn't really over talked about.
I didn't listen to the broadcast as much because I was watching it in a place where I just couldn't hear. How'd they do? How's the booth doing this year? I've been watching enough of it.
I guess what I'll say is they're doing good enough that I'm no longer sitting there judging them, thinking about how they're doing.
Okay.
It's just a natural, I'm happy with how it's going. It's good coverage, and I'm not like how we were last year a lot, just kind of almost giving them grades. It's just the broadcast to me is a great broadcast, and I don't overthink it anymore.
Yeah, there's only been one thing this season that's really set me off with the broadcast, and that was late in the race at Coda when they basically cut to a grandstand, the back half of it, when you couldn't see the leaders battling for P1. But aside from that, I've been pretty, like Quiggs said, not really thinking about it. If I have one compliment, it would be they play some great music as they go to commercials, which is like a silver lining. Obviously, we don't want to see commercials, but when I Come Around by Green Day comes on in the background as they cut away for break, I can live with that. So
that's a banger. One of the things I wanted to give some props to, going to a totally positive thing, Spire Motorsports, they had put up a graphic on their Instagram page saying how Carson Hocevar had qualified third, Michael McDowell had qualified seventh, and Justin Haley had qualified eighth. So they had a really good mojo going into Phoenix. And I think the last word of that Instagram post was bring it on, right? You know, because it's 3rd, 7th, and 8th. Very good for a company like Spire. And I give them props for putting out a post right after the fucking race where it was like Michael McDowell 27th, Justin Haley 34th, and Carson Hocevar 36th. And, you know, Michael McDowell blew a right rear twice. Carson and Haley were both caught up in that crash with Chase Briscoe. You know, we're not saying that it's anyone's fault. But then it just said, get us out of here. Like, you know, so we did very well. We shit the bed. See you guys next week. It's actually kind of refreshing to see those guys be a little bit self-deprecating. So shout out to them. All right, so with that, we're going to move away from Phoenix. And before we jump into what we're expecting from Las Vegas, we have to talk about the king of NASCAR right now. If somebody out there thinks that there's somebody else who's the king of NASCAR, I'm the one to tell you that you're wrong. It's Christopher Bell. Let's go 3 wide. And it's going to be brought to you by Blue Chew. Have better sex with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. And starting now, Blue Chew is offering a combo so strong, it'll knock your socks off and your neighbor's socks off. You'll have to move towns with the amount of noise you'll be making. Blue Chew Max has arrived, and it combines the active ingredients of Viagra, Cialis into one chewable. This combo acts fast and it lasts. Guys, be ready when she needs it and get your first month of Blue Chew for free. Great sex is a few clicks away. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA. They're prepared and shipped directly to your door, and the best part, it's all online. Blue Chew won't stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house. That is the mission. Make life easier by getting harder, and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use the promo code Rubbin. Great promo code for this in particular. Just pay $5 in shipping. That's promo code Rubbin, Rubbin. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. And after we're done talking about erections, let's go straight into Chris Bell. All right, everybody. So as promised, I still can't speak, but we're sitting here with Max Verstappen. Excuse me. We're sitting here with Christopher Bell, an absolute dominant performance so far in the 2025 season. And he's embarrassing everybody else who sits behind the wheel of a car every goddamn week. Christopher Bell, we haven't spoke to you in about a season. Welcome back to Rubbin is Racing. You're on top of the world. How you feeling?
Guys, I am honored to be back. Thanks for having me back.
Joe Gibbs had allowed you, Coach Gibbs had allowed you to do a little bit of dirt racing, and you loved it so much that you went out and you won 3 of 4. Has Coach come up to you and said, Chris, is there anything else you want? Like maybe ice cream socials? Is there anything else you want to do just to have this continued success? How's it going with Coach nowadays?
I could say that Coach, he's a big fan of Christopher Bell right now. That is for sure. It has been a great time to be alive. That's for sure. And winning for his company is always really special for me. He's doing good. We're all doing good, man. This whole 20 team is just, they're on top of the world.
Talk to me about Phoenix. How important is spring success there in pursuit of a championship later in the year? Seems like that's all we heard on the broadcast this week.
Yeah, I mean, the way that the NASCAR format is, you have certain racetracks that just mean more than other racetracks. And Phoenix is probably on top of that list. And right now, you know, we're just getting our season started, but we have really, really important races coming up between the Phoenix race last week, which obviously is the championship event. And someone's in trouble out there.
Yeah, it's New York City. Welcome. It's terrible.
Yeah. So Phoenix is the championship track. Then we have Vegas coming up, which is in the round of 8, which you have to perform well at Vegas if you want to make that championship round. We have Homestead after Phoenix or after Vegas. Or I guess it's not a round of 8 track, but Martinsville's coming up. So yeah, it's just a super important time in the NASCAR schedule because these races are what's going to dictate who wins your championship.
What would you say the hardest track you have to face in any given season is? Is there one on the schedule that you're like, this is definitely the toughest challenge for me?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of those tracks, and it just depends on what the what the deal is. Like for me, Daytona and Talladega, the speedway races have been the hardest tracks for me to get good results on. Just because being a part of Toyota, we typically are down on numbers. The Fords and Chevrolets have more numbers, have more teamwork. So it seems like that's been the hardest track to get good finishes. But as far as driving the track and testing driver skill, I would say that that's Darlington, because the track is super narrow. It's super slippery. You're sliding all over the place. You have to be right up against the fence and do that consistently without hitting it. So yeah, I mean, Darlington is probably one of my favorite tracks because it is the true test of driver skill.
Does Phoenix get a bad rap? Like now that we have the new tire come into play and everyone got to see some good racing at Phoenix, does it get a bad rap? I mean, as you look on social media, which I don't recommend anybody do if you follow NASCAR, because it's some of the nastiest people in the goddamn world on it. But it seems like Phoenix just constantly gets shit on as a track, not as a destination. It's always a nice track to go to and whatnot, but you know what I'm talking about. Did the tires fix this for you? Does this make Phoenix a little bit more worthy of being the championship track?
Well, so it's kind of a twofold question. And certainly Phoenix, I think that the tire is definitely going to help. These next gen cars have notoriously struggled on short tracks and at road courses, which has been NASCAR's bread and butter. That's been their best product throughout the years. And then since the introduction of the new car, the road courses and the short tracks have been the tracks that have taken the heat and taken the hit as far as on-track product. But I will say Phoenix is it's along the lines of Darlington, where the good teams, the good drivers, the good pit crews, the good crew chiefs, like they show up at that racetrack. And you're not going to go to Phoenix and have success without a great driver, without a great crew chief and a great pit crew. So while the racing on track looks different than it does at some of the other places, it does make sure that the cream rises to the top. And there's something to be said for that.
Out of the drivers that have won 4 races in a row, the names are pretty big names. You have Cale Yarborough, Darrell Waltrip, Dale Sr., Harry Gant, Bill Elliott, Mark Martin, Jeff Gordon, Jimmie Johnson, who did it most recently in 2007. How much would it mean to you to get into that category as well? And what is it going to take for you to get a win this weekend at Las Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, that certainly is an elite list of drivers who have competed in this sport. And, the coolest thing for me over these past couple of weeks is Jimmie Johnson has been texting me. After every win, he'll shoot me a text, tell me congratulations. And I respect the heck out of him. He's, one of the greatest to ever do it. So the fact that it hasn't been done since 2007, I think, speaks volumes for how hard it is. And we've got a great opportunity. We're going to Las Vegas Motor Speedway, which is a track that I would have had circled no matter what the circumstances were to potentially win at. And, the last fall, I mean, Las Vegas was probably the best race that my team has ever performed at. And we didn't win the race, unfortunately, due to strategy. But yeah, we went there and cleaned house. We led a bunch of laps and we're on our way cruising to a win if the strategy didn't get derailed.
Chris, what's changed this year? Like I remember last year, we put our bets in at the end of the show every year. And I was like, something's going to go wrong with Chris Bell. That's the reason I didn't take you, on certain tracks. What's changed where you kind of put together this whole package where it seemed like you were losing races. You weren't winning races last year because of almost like outside circumstances. Like you ran over a gypsy on the way to the track and they put like the Maloiki on you. What's changed this year for Chris Bell that you're now the odds-on favorite to win the championship? You're the odds-on favorite to win again this week in Las Vegas, and you're just being fucking dominating.
Well, I'm happy you asked that
because
I have the best answer for you. Nothing's
changed.
Not a single thing that has changed in our team, our preparation, our process going to the weeks. It has finally just started going our way. And I got so sick and tired of listening to the media talk about Joe Gibbs Racing hasn't won since June. Well, if you go back and look at the performance of Joe Gibbs Racing and specifically myself and my team, like I should have won 3 or 4 times from that last race at Loudon, New Hampshire, whenever I won, till Phoenix, the championship event. And even Daytona 500 this year, I should have won. And it was so frustrating because we were doing everything right in our power to go out there and win races. And we had the performance in our car, but I mean, you hit on it. It just wasn't going our way. It wasn't falling our way. And we have not changed anything. And now the results are coming. And, it's just, we're getting the results that we perform up to, which we've been doing. We've been performing at this level for a long time. It's just, it's called racing. And sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. And right now I'm trying to ride it as long as I can, because there's going to be a time where that yellow flag is going to fall and some guy's going to make it on fuel or get newer tires, and it's not going to go my way.
Imagine, Spider, if the answer was, Large, we're cheating this season. We weren't cheating last season, but we found a way to cheat this season.
That would be great for the headlines.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad.
Speaking of your current success recently, and I hate to bring up something that's not as, glamorous to talk about. Last year at the Championship 4, it seemed like you were kind of robbed of a spot to compete. Does that stick with you? Does that weigh on you? And how much did that inspire you going into this year, as much as you said nothing has changed?
Yeah, I mean, that Martinsville is definitely, that Martinsville 2024 is going to always be in my heart, no matter what, no matter how much I want to not live those moments again, it'll always be there. And, I think that was a turning point for integrity in the sport. And hopefully I appreciate NASCAR, stepping up and changing their rule language to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again. It just was it wasn't fun to be a part of, that's for sure. And certainly I want to make sure that I'm not in that same spot where a couple points makes or breaks our year and our chance at a championship. So we set a goal this year to try and maximize our playoff points, which we set that same goal every year, but we're off to a really good start. I think we've got 16 playoff points in the bank already, just 4 races into the year. And so if we can get enough playoff points to where we don't have to rely on 1 or 2 to make it in, that's always the goal. And we're off to a good start for sure.
We all know how long this season is. So we're done with, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15% of the season right now. And you're dominating, but is it irrational exuberance? Like, is it too early to sort of sit back on your laurels? And the reason I ask that is because your teammate Ty Gibbs is having a tough slog this season, but we're still so fucking young in this season.
Yeah.
As a 30-year-old guy who looks a lot younger than 30, what do you do to a younger kid like Ty Gibbs, looks a lot younger than 22, to kind of get him through this and be like, I'm as successful as anyone has ever been, on the track this far into the season. And I know you're having a tough time, but do you feel like you pick up a mentoring role to that guy, particularly because we're talking about hot seats all the time, every podcast out there, who's on the hot seat every week? And Ty Gibbs' name unfortunately comes up. So what do you say to guys like that now that you're one of the old guys one of the old veterans in NASCAR?
Yeah, I mean, certainly if he comes to me and asks for advice or, help, I help him all I can. And the advice that I tell him is just make sure that you're doing everything that you can do under your own power to control your own destiny. And, my second half of last year was a perfect example of sometimes it's just not going to go well. And we did everything right to make that Final Four, and it just didn't work out. We didn't win races whenever we should have won races. And, for him, he obviously is at a different point in his career where he's, he is every bit as capable to, run top 15, run top 10s, and they're not coming right now, but you just got to race through it and make sure that you're doing your process right. You're going to the racetrack and you're prepared. You're doing your homework. You know what lines to run in qualifying, how much throttle to use, how much brake to use. And as long as you're prepared going into a weekend, then, that's all you can do as a driver. And you hope that your team brings a fast car, the car's not falling apart. The pit crew's doing their job. And there's just so many pieces of the puzzle that have to go right to perform and win at the NASCAR Cup Series. And I've lived it where I don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, and it certainly can be frustrating.
I saw you in Mexico City doing some promo. What are your expectations for that race? And I guess what other driver incentives do you have planned for the rest of the season as you ascend to star power?
I think Mexico is going to be a great event. And it sure seems like they're planning on packing the house. And I think it'll probably be the biggest road course race we've ever had in the NASCAR Cup Series. I mean, the facility is absolutely magnificent. And, that stadium section, I know I talked about it a lot, but having a stadium section in a road course where the crowd is going to be completely surrounding the track and you go literally right through the grandstands there, that coming right to the checker flag too, that's going to be an experience that none of us have ever had. So I think we're all looking forward to racing in front of a huge crowd, getting in front of a different group of people, and it's going to be a great race. So as far as what's next for me, like I'll go anywhere. Let's go. Let's set up a media tour.
Yeah. And one of the things that NASCAR toyed with before going international with another road course, which you seemingly have had success at so far this year, is dirt racing. We saw them race Bristol Dirt from 2021 to 2023. What was your take on that? And is that something you would like to see NASCAR Cup Series get back to as a guy who's cut his teeth on dirt tracks?
Oh man, that's a loaded question, and that's a divided question. Like you'll get a lot of mixed answers there. And me personally, so dirt racing, a lot of it depends on the track preparation. And that first year in 2021, the track was not prepared properly. We ended up racing it in the middle of the day. It was blowing dust. None of the drivers could see. The fans got filthy, and it was a disaster. But then whenever we went back in 2022, we had a night race. The weather wasn't great, but the track was better, and we ended up seeing a really good race. And then 2023 was probably the best one that we had. The track was beautiful, and we saw another amazing race. So me personally, I enjoy seeing dirt races on the schedule because it just adds another skill set that the drivers have to have if they want to, be one of the best in the sport. But I will say having a one-off race like we did on the dirt, it allows teams to not take it very seriously. And, the guys that didn't have dirt drivers they were like, oh, it's an off week. We're not going to win. We're not going to run well. We're just going to take this car out here and let the driver spin out or wreck or whatever. So, I don't know. It seems like you need more of it for the teams to take it seriously, like road course racing. I mean, road course racing went down that same path where people didn't take it seriously. If you didn't have a road course driver, then it was like another off week. And you're just like, all right, well, we're going to go take our 20th place finish and focus on the week after. And now they added so many road courses that people have to take it seriously. So, I think you have to go either all in and have 2 or 3 of them or stay out of it.
So follow-up question then, if NASCAR were to revisit that strategy, can you recommend some tracks that would be great for the dirt racing? Would you want it to be already existing Cup Series tracks, or do you think as a dirt guy, maybe visit some of the places where you grew up racing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of options out there and ton of venues out there. So, Eldora is definitely the first one that comes to mind just because they had the Truck Series race there for several years. I mean, honestly, Bristol's a great asphalt track or concrete track. So it sucks to see Bristol lose a concrete race. But their dirt event was awesome too. So I could go either way on that one. Certainly Eldora would be one that deserves a date. Knoxville, there's, tracks in Pennsylvania, there's tracks in California. There's places that they could go all over the country that would be, fantastic venues. So the door's wide open there if they would be interested in doing it.
You want to drive in the Indy 500?
I do want to drive in the Indy 500.
Why?
I mean, that is the race, man.
That's the race.
The Daytona 500, like that is, so the coolest thing to me that I didn't even realize as a kid growing up about those two events is like that those two events are outside of motorsports. Like every NASCAR race, you have NASCAR fans that watch it. Well, Daytona and Indy are like the two events that you have global, worldwide, like casual fans that don't really watch racing, watch those two races because that's what they know about. And so, yeah, I mean, that's definitely circled on my list to do.
What do you think you'd need to do to be able to go there and actually perform up to Chris Bell levels? Like, I don't think you just want to go to the Indy 500 and finish, right? You want to be competitive, maybe win the goddamn thing. Like, what would you need to do? Because now you're winning on every track imaginable in the Cup Series schedule. What does it take for you now to become a very good IndyCar driver?
Well, the Indy 500 is unique because there is a lot of practice for that event. So I would hope that if I got a good ride and drove for a good team, that I could get up to speed by the time the race starts. They're at Indianapolis for almost a month of getting track time and stuff. And even before that, if you want to run the 8,500, I think like Larson had to go through qualification processes the year before. I know he did a test at Phoenix Raceway in an Indy car. So there's a lot of seat time that you get before you get into, the Indy 500 race. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's no promises that I could be competitive, but I would hope that I would be, in the mix at some point in my career, and I would love to give it a shot.
Moving forward, we're headed to Las Vegas this weekend. What are your expectations for Las Vegas? Obviously, DraftKings and the sports books think have a very good shot to win here again for a fourth consecutive week, a month straight of winning. What are your expectations, and what other tracks are most similar to Las Vegas?
I mean, I have every expectation that we're going to go there and lead laps and be in contention. You never know how the races are going to unfold, if you're going to have yellows. And last year at Vegas was a perfect example of that, where I was clearly the favorite car, the dominant car, and Joey Logano ended up stretching it on fuel and beat me to the start finish line. So you never know how the race is going to unfold, but I have all the confidence that my team's going to bring, one of the fastest cars there. And if I do my job, we should be in the mix. But as far as other tracks, like I would say Vegas is probably a top 3, top 5 track in the sport for the current generation of race car that we have, as far as producing awesome races, awesome finishes. There, Kansas, Homestead, Charlotte, all of the intermediate tracks seems to be where this car performs the best at. And I think we're going to see a great race and a lot of competitive cars, myself included, but there's going to be, a lot of heavy hitters there.
You talk about the cleanliness of the driving during some of your wins this season in particular. After Cody, you had said, I'm so proud of the way everyone raced each other at the end of that race. I mean, you did use the word proud, which I think is very strong. You're like, when we're able to race respectfully, stay off each other, and make it less of a contact sport. Why is that? Why are people starting to race, maybe you, or maybe just in general? Like watching you and Denny come to the end there last week. Like I was wondering what the hell was going to go on. It was a nice, clean race. What do you think is contributing to that? Is the worm turned here and NASCAR is becoming kinder and gentler, or is it just becoming kinder and gentler to Chris Bell?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I probably didn't word that the best, because I don't.
A lot of guys who were in the middle of the pack said Chris Bell's out of his fucking mind. In Coda, we were getting bounced around. It was as dirty as all shit. But when you're running up in front, it's a different story. So, yeah, just talk about that.
Yeah, so every driver has their own code of conduct, how they're willing to race, and you have a mixed bag. And we've seen some ugly races at the end of these things, turn out, last year and the last couple of years. And it was very refreshing to not have a demo derby at the end of the race, at least up front. I mean, I understand that guys in the back are getting pinballed around and whatever, but yeah, I mean, it's racing, it's not wrecking. And I'm okay with contact, like, bumping and banging and whatever. Like there are certain things that probably I think is fair that other guys are going to think is unfair. And what they think is fair is what I'm going to say is unfair. But, I would love to be able to get to a point where the desperation moves are limited or non-existent in our sport, where, there are many moves throughout the years, and they've gotten worse and worse through the introduction of next gen, because the cars are so indestructible. Like we're almost racing tanks out there, right? Like right. You can go out there and run into guys and your car's going to be okay, where it didn't used to be that way back in the day. So, get rid of those desperation moves and put we just want the cream to rise to the top. And if you have guys that are coming from 8th and just destroying everybody and taking the win, like we want the best guys winning the race. And it is still like, we're on this teeter-totter of, is it racing or is it entertainment? Is it sports? Is it entertainment? And, I think everybody wants to see the best football team win the Super Bowl. You want to see the best basketball team win. You want to see the best drivers win, the best teams win.
I haven't asked this question in a while, but let's say we're down in Mexico City. Chris Bell is having a nice little beverage by the pool, a group of young thugs approach you, and they're looking to beat the shit out of you, maybe take everything you have. Who's the one driver in the Cup Series that you would want to have your back in a street fight? Spider, I haven't asked this question in a while.
You have
Right? Because
not.
we've gotten
That's a really
think about it for a sec. Who's like the toughest guy that you, Chris Bell, would want next to you in a bar fight in Mexico City? Who would that be?
man.
It's tough, right?
Suarez comes to mind. Just
Suarez,
because
yes, good one.
he's a local. He'll be able to at least communicate with him, and he's strong, man. I wouldn't want to get in a fight with Suarez. I watched him take McDowell down, who was like twice his size.
Yeah.
I don't know. Suarez comes to mind. Maybe Ryan Preece.
Oh yeah, he's an ass kicker.
Yeah, I'll take those two, Suarez and Preece.
That's not
How
bad.
about outside of Mexico City? NASCAR seems to be, continue to like research and invest in international efforts. If it were not Mexico City, is there another venue that you would prefer or be ideal?
Dude, we used to run truck series at a track in Canada called Mosport, and I loved that racetrack. It was one of the most fun road courses that I've ever run. Like, there's a ton of elevation changes. There's great braking zones, passing zones. I would love to take Cup cars to that track. I think it's up in Toronto or like close to Toronto. That would be really cool. But I love the fact that we're going to different racetracks. I think that it would be really, really good for the sport to get to where we go to a venue one time a year and get away from going to, venues twice a year. A couple of years ago, whenever I first got into the sport, there was a time like we would go to Pocono and Michigan. We would go to those places like twice in a matter of 6 weeks. And you could just see that the crowd would be really good for the first race, and then it would taper off for the second race because the area got so watered down with events. So, I love adding new racetracks to the schedule, and I wouldn't be opposed to going to a track once every 2 years so that, the fans feel like it's a big deal. It's a big event.
The biggest dig on NASCAR this season has been its inconsistency. And as soon as they try to work on that, it seems like another issue pops up where they can be inconsistent also. So let's just talk about one. Would you like to see races go into 5 overtimes? Or is it one of those things where you don't mind seeing races end under caution?
Well, I think all of us hate seeing the race end under yellow. Nobody's going to sit here and say that we want to see the race end under yellow, but there are a lot of things outside of our control. And probably the biggest one is just the TV time slot that the race has to conclude at a certain time. And if it doesn't, you're cut off. So, the inconsistency has been it's been a tough point, definitely throughout the first bit of the schedule between the Daytona duels, the Xfinity race, the Cup race, at those super speedway stuff where, there's likely to be a wreck at the end of the races. What I can say to that is all of the drivers and the industry personnel are trying to err on the side of safety. And a couple of those races, the Daytona 500, the Xfinity race at Atlanta, where, there's wrecks that happen in the front of the field and then they don't throw the yellow flag. Well, everyone in the back of the field has to get through the wreck. And it creates a very dangerous time because people aren't lifting off the accelerator because the green flag is out. And you're literally you're playing Frogger. Like you're just trying to miss these wrecked cars that are stopped on the racetrack to improve your finish and get back to the start finish line. So all of us have said, you know what, if there is a wreck on the last lap, like if it's in the front half of the field, you need to throw the yellow so that we don't endanger, the drivers that are on the track.
Christopher, that's all we have for you today. I just know that you're the hottest commodity in the Cup Series, and Spider and I both really appreciate you coming on the show and spending a little bit of time with us. I don't see any race in the near future that you can't win, so maybe come back after the next 3. So after the 6 in a row, then we'll do you in the 9 in a row. So we'll do it in lots of 3 if that's okay by you.
I hope I talk to you in 3 weeks then.
Yeah, excellent. That's Chris Bell. He's a goddamn stud. Thanks, Chris. We'll talk to you soon.
See you guys. Thank you.
All right. So Chris Bell, again, I said at the end of the interview, this guy, everybody wants to talk to him. After you win 3 in a row, he carved out some time to talk to us. Really appreciate him and really appreciate, I forget that he's 30 years old. That's on me. Chris Bell looks 24. to me. So sometimes when you're an older guy and you're talking to these young kids, I'm just constantly impressed with them, and Chris is no different. What did you think about that interview, Spider?
I thought it was great, and I don't mean this disparagingly towards Christopher Bell, but I feel like he's a guy that's not only super successful, but a lot of times, and again, we keep talking about criticism in the sport, but a lot of people get on him for just being relatively quiet, modest, humble, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And I thought he gave us some pretty good answers, and it was a little bit more insightful than I was originally expecting. So I appreciate Christopher's time. I thought he was great. We got some good stuff out of him, and I hope that he continues his dominance over NASCAR right now, as much as I would love to see a little bit more parity. But you have to respect what he's done so far.
And I mean, he went – I didn't call you out in the interview, Quigs. I had said, how –
I ran and hid today.
Yeah, no, how we had a tough time betting on him last year because we always knew something was going to go wrong. We just knew something was going to go wrong. So to hear, I said, what changed? And he's like, nothing's changed. Like I'm doing the same exact thing. It's just getting better results. All right, let's get into Las Vegas. A 1.5 mile asphalt track. It's the 5th race of the 36 race season. We have a full weekend plan. So the trucks are going to be on Friday night. Starts at 9 p.m. on FS1. Justin Haley will be wheeling the number 7 for Spire in that race, as well as Cup. Then Xfinity races on Saturday at 4:30 on the CW. There were 2 slots that were TBD on the entry list, but no Cup guys pulling double duty as of now with the Xfinity race at Vegas. And the weekend is capped off on Sunday with the Pennzoil 400, presented by Jiffy Lube, starting at 3:30 p.m. on FS1. It's the first of 2 races at Las Vegas, with the other one being the South Point 400, which is the first race of the round of 8 in the playoffs. Kyle Larson's defending champ. He's won this race twice, as have Joey and Brad. Jimmie Johnson has the most wins with 4. I thought that this was kind of cool. I don't know if I mentioned this once before, but in 2009 and 2010, Shelby had took over as sponsor. And in 2009, they added 27 miles to the 400-mile race, making it the Shelby 427, right? After the Shelby 427 Cobra, which is one of the greatest looking cars I've ever seen. So as always, we recommend that you guys go to see a race in person wherever you can. So if you're out on the West Coast and get your ass over to Las Vegas, get yourself some tickets on NASCAR.com. We need a winner, guys.
Yeah.
I don't mean to put the pressure on you, assholes, but we need a winner. So let's get into picking the tires. Let's make some very intelligent choices on this Wednesday afternoon. And picking the tires is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Who's scoring big in the NBA? You are. With all the new ways to get into the action on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. DraftKings is home to NBA player props, so you can get your favorite players any which way. Monster slams, dishing the rock, cleaning the glass. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking an NBA player prop. And here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. So take it to the rack with DraftKings Sportsbook. Every point counts. Download the Sportsbook app and use the code Rubbin. That's code Rubbin for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. How do you guys feel about the board this week? I have 2 bets. One of them is parlay. I'll go first if you want, unless somebody feels extremely strongly about this.
No, go ahead.
What about you, Moon? Do you have anything that you need to get off your chest?
No, you go ahead.
All right. I'm just logging in.
I got 3 losers again this week.
Do you really?
Yeah. I just can't hit a bet, man.
Really?
And I'm not making it easy on myself. It's like every week I'm just like, what sort of weird bet can I do this week that could save me? And it's just going to be more losers.
I took William Byron as the top Chevy.
For this week?
Yeah.
Okay.
And basically the only person who's shorter odds than him was Kyle Larson. So I just need William Byron to beat Kyle Larson. That's how I think about it in my head. Obviously, I know there's other Chevys there. And I took Tyler Reddick as the top Toyota. So I took William Byron plus 320 top Chevy, Tyler Reddick plus 225 is top Toyota, and then I parlayed them for plus 1,200. Seems like a lot. doesn't
I
it?
like that.
That's kind of
Yeah.
sweet, isn't it? So I got a 2-pick parlay with Tyler Reddick being top Toyota, William Byron being top Chevrolet, and then I bet those both individually. I don't mind those bets, and we'll see how they qualify and whatnot. But that's all I got for this week.
I'll go next because I have the same type of bet.
Imagine you had the same one. That'd be fucking spooky.
No, I'm right breathing down your neck with my guys. I have a top Chevy, a top Ford, and a top Toyota, all just straight. No, I'm not parlaying any of it.
Mm-hmm.
Top Chevy, Kyle Busch, plus 700 in Vegas. He always races well here, and I love those odds. Top Ford, gonna need a few things to go my way, but guy I've been talking about that I like is Josh Berry, plus 2,000 as top Ford. And then top Toyota,
He's plus 2,000 top Ford?
Yep.
Cool.
Which, I mean, he's got to go up against Joey
he's got the
Blaney.
big ones, yeah.
But, and then top Toyota, it's tough to go against Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick here, but I'm taking Denny at plus 350.
Quigs, just because you brought up some names, who do you think the worst person Catherine could have ran into at that same exact time? Daniel was running P6 at the time, right?
Yep.
P6, and we know where Daniel is like in the season and whatnot. Who's the worst person that she could have hit into, and ended their day to where it would have blew up the internet?
I don't think Kyle Busch would have loved it.
No, I think Kyle Busch that would have been fucking something else. That would have I mean, there's no way he would have been able to hold his tongue. I think that would have been made for some really fucking good sound bites.
Yeah. I'm looking through. Yeah, I think Kyle Busch would.
How about Christopher Bell? Was he leading at the time?
Probably, yeah, maybe.
I mean, I
That
feel
would've
like
been
wrecking the leader is as bad as it.
I know, but more like who would
react the worst.
Who would get on the mic after
Yeah.
and
like you think Ricky Stenhouse would have punched her, like like that whole thing. Who knows? Spider, you want to go clean up or now?
Yeah, I'll go next.
Go ahead.
I'm going to be chalky this week. I'm going to take Kyle Larson, who is a disgusting 4-1, but defending champion of this race, and I think he is right up there with Christopher Bell in terms of best active drivers in terms of talent. So I expect a win from him here, to be honest with you, and this is kind of his style track. So give me Kyle Larson. And then outside of him, I'm going with Ryan Blaney, who's 12-1 to win the race. Also, give me Ty Gibbs 4-1 for a top 5 finish. He finished here 5th last year. I know everyone's talking about how bad Ty Gibbs has been.
Mm-hmm.
I think he rights the ship this weekend with another good showing like we saw last year. Top 5 is probably a little bit optimistic, but for 4-1, I will pencil that in. And then in terms of top 10s, give me 2 of my favorite drivers. I'm taking Noah Gragson, who is 4-1 for a top 10, as well as Riley Herbst, who's 11-1 for a top 10. Both these guys are Vegas natives and will likely be racing in front of a lot of family and friends local to where they grew up, as much as they probably spent a lot of time in the North Carolina region as well. But I'm going with those guys for top 10. Give me Vegas's very own in Las Vegas in the desert. Noah Gragson had a top 10 here last year. I think he was 6th. And Riley Herbst, I've been intrigued by him. Although if I could bet on him to finish 17th every race moving forward, I probably would, because his first 3 races, that's exactly where he finished.
Yeah.
So those are my plays. A little bit more loaded up this week, and hopefully we can cash at least one of them.
We need a winner.
Yeah.
Moonhead, give us a. We're not allowed to use.
Someone's got to take Bell, right?
I don't know.
I'm
Like
not.
400. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised you took Larson. I think obviously it's always a good bet to take Larson. I just hate those fucking 400s. Plus 400s in a big thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Moon. What do you got?
I'm going all in on Tyler Reddick. I wanted to go in on Bell, but I just 4 in a row. Like, come on. Like, there's no way, right? I said that about 3, but 4 in a row is, I don't know the stats on that, but that's like borderline unheard of, at least lately. So I like Reddick. He's run there good. I think he ran 2nd there last year in this race, if I'm not mistaken. So I like him.
All right, so there you have it. Anybody have anything to pump before we go?
No, I think that's
No.
it. I think Moonhead and I are working on some iRacing stuff that will likely be coming after March Madness has come and went. Originally, I wanted to start it in this month, but I think it will be better to just revisit in April once college basketball winds down so we can give that the full attention it deserves. There's a lot of moving parts in the Chicago office right now, so especially like the PCs we literally race on. So, yeah, that's coming, but just going to take a little bit more time, and I look forward to getting people involved in that.
That's be fun. I just dropped another episode of You Got to Try This. Last week's episode did real well. It was with Stu Feiner. His death row meal involved an 8-ball of cocaine, which I thought was a little bit different.
That would just kill your appetite.
Not
No?
for him.
Yeah, no,
He's the only person on Earth.
So that was a very good episode. And then this week we have Fights on. And Fights always does well. We tried that viral chicken sandwich they're selling here in New York that has the chicken foot still on it. So it's like a chicken foot poking out of the fucking bun. So tune into that. You got to try this. And other than that, this Rubbin is we're not going to a race for a couple of weeks, right? We're still.
No, we are going to Talladega next. I might be attending Formula E in Miami on April 12th. I got an invite to that, so working to get that in motion. But I look forward to maybe that opportunity as well as a new, fresh discipline of racing. So
Why the hell not?
until then, just other than that, Talladega, which we very much look forward to, and I think we've got a lot of fun stuff planned for that. I think Chef Donnie's going to come with us and maybe do some cooking for the drivers and the pit crews, and I look forward to welcoming him to the racetrack. He's a guy I've done a lot of iRacing stuff with, so it's all been virtual to this point. So bringing him alongside with us to the track is something
cool.
I'm fortunate for.
And then there were rumors that the Mexico City race was going to be canceled, and then they were going to run it at Daytona Road Course instead. But those rumors have been squashed this week. So unless there are other extenuating circumstances that happen, it looks like it's full steam ahead going into Mexico City in July, and we'll be on boots on the ground for that. That's it for this. I apologize again for my voice. Hopefully we'll be back to normal next week, and we'll see you next week on Rubbin is Racing.
Peace.